Hello. So, I want to talk. Look, I've been criticized for criticizing certain books. Now, to be honest, for criticizing one book, the Bible. I never saw what I was supposed to see there. But I've grown a lot, and I've learned a lot. So I've started it again. And I want to talk about in the beginning. From what I can tell, in the beginning is a story that encompasses a lot, it concerns a lot of people on this planet still to this day. It's shared by three pretty major belief systems. So I read it and I kept an open mind. There's not much to the story there. It's pretty much, in the beginning, we were one thing. A thing happened. And as a result of the thing, we changed and history began. That's a pretty succinct summation. And this is the origin story believed by very, very many of us. So we were once one thing. A thing happened. As a result of the thing, we changed and history began. So, what the hell was this thing that happened? From what I can tell, before that thing happened, we were, my best guess is operating on a single replicator. That would be genetic replicators. That would be DNA. That everything functioned as intended on one replicator. A thing happened. That's the point, right? This thing involves a tree. I want to discuss this tree. So the settings for this tree is a garden. In this garden grows the tree. The tree is unique. It's not a grove of trees. It's not multiple trees. It's the tree. The tree of knowledge of good and evil. As far as I can glean, there's one rule. Go about your happy business. Live your lives. Don't touch the tree. But the thing that happened was we touched the tree. What this tree does is bear fruit. This fruit, apparently, according to our history, bestows knowledge of good and evil. It bestows consciousness. Consciousness, as I've described, as I've told you, is an organic process, mimetically driven or fueled, leading to a unique self-aware consciousness. Well, you. Unique and self-aware. So what is this tree? It is set apart. It is recognized by Eve as being bearing fruit that is good to eat. Now, I don't know about that. I have a theory about this tree. It's unique. It's put there. You were told to leave it alone. I want to know, how long does this unique tree need to grow for its fruit to be actually ripe? I mean, Eve was probably a good judge of apple trees and orange trees and, I don't know, banana trees, whatever trees, at recognizing whether or not an apple is ready to be eaten, if that fruit is good to eat. In what way does she have expertise to understand whether or not the fruit of a tree that imbues us with consciousness, a second replicator, how do we know if that fruit is ripe? My theory is that it wasn't. That what we got by jumping the gun and moving early, being tricked or whatever have you, we took into our bodies that were different, a fruit that wasn't ready for our consumption yet, or a fruit that we were not ready to consume yet. But there was a plan for this tree. I don't think the plan was, it's there to make sure you leave it alone. I think that there's a plan for it. I think that eventually, when it or we were ready, the plan would have gone forward. But instead, we got consciousness, and I think we got it early. So what is the change? So remember, we were once one thing, a thing happened, and as a result of the thing, we changed and history began. The thing is, we ate this fruit, we gained a second replicator, our consciousness, we changed by adding a second replicator, and history began. Before this time, there was no need of history. Everything went along as intended. The acquisition of consciousness is what changed our futures. Everything I read in that book, I'm up to Joshua now. Everything I've read in that book, am I going through it again, seems to be frustration on the part of whatever supreme or superior being is interacting with us. It seems to be like there was a creation that was working. It was perfect. It was happy. It was good. Because of this thing that happened, frustration was the result. And I definitely mean frustration. From displays of power to wiping out all genetic lines save one. I think it is perfectly clear that from that stage up to Joshua, frustration is the best term to describe whatever being is interacting with us. So, thousands of years later, we recognize the first replicator, finally, in Charles Darwin and others. We mistake that second replicator, or first replicator, DNA. We mistake it as evidence that it was never created, that we were just evolved. But the problem is, the evolution religion, not all people who believe in evolution believe in it as a religion, but most do. That requires you to project into a very long timeline. And part of the problem that's arose because of this is this idea that evolution means you don't have or need a God. Any other religion on the planet means you require a deity, some kind of superior intervention. And for most of my life, there's been a timeline issue in that the creation story is supposedly 6,000 years. That's our entire history. Nothing else existed before that. That stipulation, I feel, is immaterial. And I've said before, my concerns are about our consciousness, not about did humans ever live with dinosaurs or did Egyptians ever make batteries. I don't give a shit about any of this crap. My concerns are more recent, within the last 6,000 years. Looking at this story, the story of our history, I don't see how the two views are incompatible from a timeline perspective. A thing happened. As a result of the thing, we changed and history began. Is simply that. Whatever happened before that is immaterial because of this change. But what does that imply for us as a species? Everybody I have thought, most of my life, I've thought very hard about what it means to be part of a fall or to be a fallen species. And I find it hard to believe, it's just very weird to me that at this point in our history, the religion that is closest to getting us or trying to push us back into a non-fallen state is evolution. The religion that pushes global warming, that pushes climate change, that pushes be responsible towards the environment is the one that's pushing towards our pre-fallen condition. We were once one with our environment. In fact, we probably were very well functioning part of the ecosystem. At this point in our history, we are very much fallen. We are very much not a functioning part of our ecosystem. We are causing more problems than we are solving. Hell, we're denying most of the problems we cause. And it is the religion of evolution that is trying to push us back to a pre-fallen state. Oddly enough, the religions that claim to believe in a God and want to be more like that God, better, more good, are the ones that are pushing us away from that. More denial comes from that side. I think the part of consciousness, that unique self, is the flaw. It's also necessary for any of the progress we've seen in the last few thousand years. That understanding of self. You know, to be honest, I expected more conflicting feelings as I was going through that book again. I remember when I was young, most of the problems I had with that book was things that just seemed human. Thou shalt not kill, but wipe out this entire tribe. That was very contradictory for me when I was younger. But in light of this new perspective on it, it makes sense that the thing I created, if I was to put myself, I know it's blasphemous, whatever, to put yourself in God's position, but whatever. The thing I made was working fine until they screwed it up. They prematured their way into being a fallen species, and now things are screwed. Understanding how DNA, our first replicator, works, and also understanding how consciousness works, our second replicator, I can't imagine what it would be like to look down and understand what's going on inside consciousness and have to try and course correct so that the old plan is salvageable. Because it seems like extreme methods were A-OK to use. Wipe out all genetic lines save one. That's our origin story for a very great portion of human beings on this planet. And I don't think we've gotten I think we clearly have missed the point. Because there are other interventions as time goes on. I haven't gotten that far in the book yet. I know I've read it when I was younger, and I know I've obviously been exposed to it my entire life. But I wonder how far off, if we miss the point from in the beginning and carry our false understandings forward for the rest of our history, what else is going to be uncovered? How hard is the road back going to be? Is it a road that can even be traveled? You know, I've defined consciousness. 15 minutes, huh? I've defined consciousness for us. I think there's a misunderstanding when it comes to consciousness, in that it is misconstrued as the soul. I believe I have a soul. I believe everybody that's watching this has one. And I think the way human beings look at it is it's a struggle between creative and entropic energies, which I've discussed in other videos, probably labeled that exact thing. Some souls, some individuals, via their consciousness, see, we interact and recognize the soul via the consciousness. The soul isn't our consciousness. We recognize its existence with our consciousness and interact with it on that level. But we seem to see it as this struggle between entropic and creative energies that is ongoing. It's odd to me that most human beings seem to see their soul as a weird fractal theory equation. Like there's two vibrating energies and our choices determine which energy we are more focused on. Are we good? Are we evil? There are obviously extreme positions on this. Souls that think so much has gone wrong, so many bad choices have been made, that there is never a chance to counteract, to undo or make up for these things. So fuck it. And those people who view that way are capable of doing very terrible, terrible things. And at the other end of the spectrum is the same story. People who think, I am such a good person, there is no amount of evil that could ever undo the amount of good that I have done. And those people too are capable of terrible, terrible things, including, but not limited to, misleading generations of human beings. If the soul is a struggle, some fractal theory struggle between good and evil, creative and entropic, then to mislead generations, that math, I mean, variables are unknown, but that math is recognizable. We can understand the cumulative weight of that kind of damage. In both of those two extreme cases, I think that the recovery from their actions is the only place in which you can find hope. The beauty of which is, for the Christians at least, that struggle becomes irrelevant through Jesus. I guess my biggest struggle was whether or not my conversion was real. Because our actions and our decisions, when it comes to the soul, we know our intentions. This struggle between good and evil is always going to be internal. Our actions, our outward, what people can see outwardly, because our intentions matter. However, I think that because consciousness is now a known variable, is a recognized replicator, any reflection the individual does with that knowledge should be able to expose any false nature in our spirits. If you are somebody who believes they're doing good but isn't, or if you are somebody that believes they're doing bad but isn't, understanding the definition of your consciousness and how that only is not, it is not your soul. It is how you interact with and recognize your soul. Understand what this tree did for us. This tree gave us consciousness. This entire conversation, and in fact, our entire history, does not exist without this struggle. It's kind of terrifying, but it's also kind of exhilarating to understand, but confusing too. Why is it the people that say they are atheists or agnostics make up the bulk of the people trying to help, or at least talking about fixing a system where we are a broken species, a broken ecosystem? And why is it those that claim to be so close to God really only find comforting justifications? I get that pain is distracting. Sickness, pain, unfairness in life. These are easy things to just throw to the greater forces we imagine we have no control over. But why the clear direction difference? Why is it the side that believes in a higher power? Why is that the side that is causing problems with trying to repair a broken ecosystem, namely us? I guess what I would hope to do is repair or just bridge that gap. Look, all of you arguing over your politics, your religions, your faith, what you pray for, what you meditate on, the arguments don't mean shit because it's self-driven. All of this is a functioning ecosystem. Doesn't give a shit if they've got a Mercedes-Benz. It doesn't care what's on their wrist. It doesn't care what phone they use or what apps they use, what books they read, what movies they watch. It doesn't give a shit. A functioning ecosystem does not care about that. I'm going to do another video tonight, more from the agnostic or atheistic view about where we are in the universe. My goal between these two videos is to try and show that there's actually, on one side, my side, the faith-based side, that there is actually a call for us to unite and change our freaking ways, how we interact with this planet. Because my side seems to be very distracted by wannabe dictators and big, overflowing, feel-good churches, or just saying fuck it all and praying for rapture. Like, if you're just saying fuck it all and praying for rapture, there is a fight to be had here. There is, one of the things I struggle with in these things, I've said all of these things, right? And I know I have to leave something that is hope, at least hope adjacent, right? Something that says we can actually do something about this. And we can. Surprisingly enough, to fix us as a broken ecosystem isn't all that difficult. It's a simple swap. We don't want to lose. We don't want to give up power. We don't want to give up the ease of life we've discovered when it comes to plumbing, or all of these things that we've learned through our society, even though it was broken. All of those things have value. You want to make the change as a species so that you don't have to give a lot of that up. I'd say you're going to have to give up some plastic. I got a different idea for that. But anyways, the change is simple. Recognize that the way we built our system is that we assume specific special people have talents that are worthy of so much more than the rest of common talents. So what we've done is everything that is vital to us, we leave in the hands of small numbers of people, whether it's power generation, distribution, whatever. and we allow them to move it amongst us. We've decided the power structure for crucial elements of our existences must be taken care of from a top-down management perspective, and all the resources should flow up to the top. To fix this weird freaking thing we've done, all you have to do is reverse that. You have to make it incentivized so that the masses produce the energies and sell to the select few. That's energy generation. Anyway, plastic and recycling and politics, all that crap is completely different. But understand that the model, there are two very important models to be shown here. Two very important, let me just say, factors or indicators. If you reverse how power is generated, forget coal mines and power plants, and generate it en masse, wide scale, and run the grid backwards. Generators to storage, not storage to users. That's the first flip. The second is perspective, and that's where I focus. That's what I'm trying to focus on, is what is the key crucial areas where these perspectives can be flipped in all of those individuals that might interact with my work. What is it I need to flip? I study memetics, so I understand that in our consciousness, to make it money, flash, fast, to be effective, fast, I need to make you agitated, angry, motivated, because you're trying to struggle for your freedoms or your survival or your rights. That's fast. But that shit always burns up and moves on by the next generation. So understanding how we work, I know I have to find a key switch to flip. Find a way to make that flip happen in as many places as I can. And I think one of the crucial places is understanding that if we are fallen, what is it we are fallen from? What were we? And what are we now? And I think I know what that change is. It is consciousness. This self that seems to have replaced all other importances. Whether or not you're good or evil, it's still the self that is your focus. It is the self, the unique part of consciousness that has us all either fighting for freedom, trying to secure our rights, chasing our tails and telling us to be insecure or in any way useful, trying to stop us from being useful. I think that is one of the key switches to make you or anybody else aware that is where we've gone wrong. That is where the perspective changed. That is how it changed and why it changed. I believe we are fallen. I believe that we were one thing. I believe that a thing happened, and as a result of the thing, we changed, and history began. The thing that changed was us with the addition of a second replicator. The most difficult part of that replicator to overcome, to help rebalance our species and make us properly function, is the self. That's the area that needs to be targeted. Too many people believe they are good when they are wrong. Too many people believe they're evil and cannot be saved when they can be. That's the tree. I've never heard a sermon on that. I've never read a book about that. Why not? Is it simply because See, now I know I'm already over. I'm 30 minutes. I can say whatever the hell I want. Nobody watches it this long. So, the other thing to look at here, if for some reason people watch this, and I realize now I'm definitely a bad fucking example, right? Like, I'm not trying to get your money. I don't care about your power. I don't care about your popularity. I don't care about any of that shit. You want to look at my stupid face doing this thing. If I figure something out, I want to share it. I'm a flawed human being who works very hard at shit nobody's asked him to work at. You have nothing for me. One of the things I cannot get past is that if that's the way our world functions, first replicator, DNA, genetic replication. Second replicator, consciousness, conscious replication, memes. You know, I'll say this in the other video too, because I'm 30 minutes in, nobody's going to get this far, but if it helps you to understand my definition of consciousness, think of memes as the things you replicate in order to grow your consciousness, in order to grow your, what we call self-awareness, indicating that it might be part of the problem. The things you replicate. One of the things I replicate, and I have replicated since I was exposed to it decades ago, was that the argument between whether or not the future is random or predetermined. And the idea that I've replicated was that the future is predetermined by the character of those who shape it. I have ideas. I don't know that I have character. I don't think I should be the one that shapes it. I think at best I could hope that the one that should shape it, or those that should shape our future, the ones with character, will just be exposed to my ideas. I can't force that, but I think that would be my hope. The future is predetermined by the character of those who shape it. And I gotta be honest with you, from what I see of the world I live in, character is misunderstood by the people who are on my side. I don't even think that the true meaning of character is even a factor anymore when it comes to choosing their leaders. They've gone for character in the TV cartoon way of thinking of the term. There's no integrity in the leaders that we are picking. There's no character. They are just characters. Anyway, we were once one thing. A thing happened. As a result of the thing, we changed and history began. The thing that changed was the introduction, by my estimation, the early introduction, the premature introduction of consciousness, which is an organic function, an organic process, mimetically driven or fueled, depending on whether you're chasing your tail or not, resulting in self-awareness. The flaw in the plan. Thank you.